First of the Collegium da Vinci lectures of the year. We began last year having a large lecture like this. This particular lecture is a result of the generosity of a great number of people. In particular, I'd like for Pierce and Alibeth Allman to stand. Pierce and Alibeth, please stand. Without the generosity of the Allmans and the Wetzels, we would not be here tonight, and we are truly grateful. Also, we do this in conjunction with Wiley High School. Alan and Leah Marsh, would you please stand? The Marshes were there. The Collegium da Vinci is, in my entirely unbiased opinion, the most interesting set of conversations about science in the Dallas area. We have other events coming up very soon. On October the 10th, if you're interested in science, Dr. Michael Turner, who is the chair of the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics at the Fermi Institute at the University of Chicago, will be here. And our next Collegium lecturer will be Fred Windorf. I can't imagine that you've been in or around SMU for very long without knowing who Fred is. Fred will be here on the 20th. And those of you who are Collegium members, make a note that at 5 o'clock that day, we'll have a tour, a special guided tour of the Methodist Museum. If you'd like to come, if you're a Collegium fellow or a Collegium member, you need to let Dorothy Friedlander know that you're going to be here. Dorothy, where are you? Dorothy must be here somewhere. There she is. Wave at us, Dorothy. Let Dorothy know that you're going to come. We'll have a tour at 5 o'clock for Collegium members and Collegium fellows on October the 20th. But we're here tonight to hear from James Randi. And when you try to introduce somebody, there are any number of things you might or might not say. You may have noticed that men, I guess more than women, but people wear lapel pins from time to time. I think it's mostly men, but women do as well. And I've often thought about wearing a lapel pin, but never actually found one that I wanted to wear. Tonight, I found my lapel pin. James Randi, through the Randi Institute, has a lapel pin, which is a pig with wings. Now, if you're a dean, and you have a lapel pin which says, "Sure, we can do that when pigs fly," you're much better situated than you were before. So I'm going to get a, what would you say, a Pegasus, I guess? I'm going to get myself a Pegasus. Pierce, I'm going to get you one too. I bet if you'd like to have one, you can have one too. So we're all going to have Pegasus, I guess they would be. Well, James Randi has made a career out of asking the questions that we all ought to have common sense enough to ask. Of all the people probably living on the planet today, he's the one who has more frequently asked the question, you know, when you deal with a medium, or you're involved in a seance, or you're dealing with the paranormal in general, what are you really dealing with? He's been given awards by any number of organizations. He has an honorary doctorate. The National Security Administration gave him a special citation a couple of years ago. He's one of those people who ask the questions that all of us wish we had the cleverness and the tenacity to ask. And it's a real delight to have him here. We're going to see a very brief video introduction, and then we'll have James Randi.
There's something that you don't know about this. It's a strange thing, but a guy, you know, is supposed to have two on this side, and it has 4 on that side. Now, that's not the way it's supposed to be made. See, the 4 on that side and the 2 on that side, actually, it's supposed to be a 5 on that side, but it's not. This is not made properly. 2 on that side, 4 on that side, 2 on that side, and 5 on that side. You do that.
People, I am the Amazing Rudolph, and I will show you how easily a skilled magician can reproduce any of these so-called psychic tricks.
Forget the chit-chat, get to work.
Hi, I'm James Randi. I'm a magician. That is to say, I'm a fake. Watch this. I'm going to do a little trick for you. I'm going to bounce this pen on the edge of the table. Now I'll look away so you're sure I'm not blowing, but I want you to look right into your TV set, concentrate on it, make that pen fall off the table. Let's work on it now. Come on, concentrate. Stronger. Gee, that was very good. How did you do that? June 7th, we'll be offering $100,000 prize to anyone who can prove psychic powers on our program.
You're thinking of a pizza, right?
No.
A small little rodent, maybe a hat,
No.
a clothespin.
No, wrong.
A shoe.
Gesundheit.
Oh, man, a hammer.
No.
We're gonna get that money. We're gonna make that money. We're gonna make that money. We're gonna get your money, Randy. You're gonna be broke, man.
Do you believe everything you see on the news? How about a nationally reported story about a computer that determines the guilt or innocence of suspected criminals? Host James Randi, professional skeptic and debunker of frauds, takes us through the conception, the setup, and the payoff of these remarkable scams.
I'm James Randi, and in this special presentation, we'll look at the inner workings of some of history's most outrageous scams and the confidence men behind them. Now, most cons follow a very simple set of rules. The first rule is that the con artist always wins.
Misdirection. It's the greatest weapon that the magician has and that the psychic has to direct your attention away from what's really happening.
And with that warning in mind, we'd like to direct your attention to a man who has directed his attention to misdirection his entire life.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Randi. I'm not a chemist, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a medical person, I'm not a geologist or an astronomer. My field is very narrow right here. All it has in it is 2 elements: how people are fooled and how they fool themselves.
Tonight on Nova, James Randi, magician and investigator of psychic phenomena.
Don't laugh, this is science.
For 25 years, Randi has explored the world of the paranormal and tested claims of supernatural powers. Now Randi journeys to Russia to challenge psychics never before seen in the West. After decades of research, can we finally discover the secrets of the psychics?
What's the problem here? I mean, this is good-natured fun.
Well, because it's a very dangerous thing to believe in nonsense. First thing you know, you're giving your money to the charlatans, you're giving your emotional security, and in some cases, you're giving your life to them.
Throw them up there on the stage. You don't have to leave with those pills.
He had people who were on medication, necessary medication, like nitroglycerin tablets for heart attacks, digitalis, things like oral insulin. He had them come out of the audience and throw their pills up on stage.
Throw them up there. That's a blow of defeat for the devil.
As you see it, this is the real danger in all the faith healing.
It's one of the real dangers. The other danger is emotional dependence on charlatans like this, people who claim that they have an ability to tell you how to run your life and how to recover from disease.
Somebody praise him!
More Americans believe in psychic power than in evolution. And this continuing trend away from the belief in science has Randi concerned.
I'm afraid our descent into another dark age is accelerating. It's accelerating because information is more easily available and misinformation at the same rate. I'm afraid it's easier to become silly now because we have access to nonsense much faster and in full color.
But with all the psychic phenomena,
procedure, which is used in the Philippines by the psychic surgeons. Now, oops, give me a ball. Right in there, that's it. Fine, thank you.
Lieutenant General?
Now, hold on now. Watch very carefully. You're going to see an absolute miracle taking place now. I reach into the body like this, and put your head down there. You'll be shocked by this, believe me. Watch it carefully now. I make an incision in the body, like this. Now, attempt, if I can, to reach into that incision and extract from it. It may not be easy now. Extract from that incision part of this deadly substance here. We just leave that aside. Here, this has water. I'll give you drink some, can't you? Yeah, put it right down into the middle of that's it. Right down in the middle of it, so we'll mop it up a bit. That's it, that's better, thank you.
James Randi, one of the world's greatest magicians, performs for his Australian sponsors, businessmen Dick Smith and Philip Adams.
More of the tumors coming out.
He demonstrates by trickery what some people claim they can do for real.
And
I can see why people actually believe that it's absolutely genuine.
I think it looks like it.
That's genuine.
Yeah, God.
That's right. Oops, we're losing a little bit down the side. That's it. Now the object is to try to heal the wound, and we do that simply by drawing the hand over it like this, and the wound is, as you see, effectively healed up. And there are the substances which are left behind.
Is this covered by Medibank?
I have no idea. That you'll have to talk to your Medibank person about that.
So what, there are people actually doing this?
People doing this, yes, doing this around the world, and this appears to be an operation. Now, mind you, under analysis, these substances turn out to be pieces of chicken liver. In some cases, they have been actually pieces of cigarette filter that have been used in the Philippines and been analyzed as such.
Now, but I actually saw them come out. Where did they come from?
There's some more in here. There we go.
Where did they actually come from?
That's a very good question. The Philippine psychic surgeons would be glad to answer that for you, but it's a conjuring technique. It involves things that are used by magicians and have been used by magicians for years for simple tricks.
And what about the blood? Where did that come from?
From the same place.
But with all of this supposed psychic phenomena crowding the World Wide Web, Randi still has an unmatched challenge.
Can psychics really sense what you can? Can the stars predict your future?
You have Jupiter in the 7th house.
And thousands of nurses say their touch can heal.
I'll give them $1 million so they can prove that.
Tonight, the supernatural, exposed by an expert on the bizarre.
Randi and his foundation have put up $1 million as a prize.
Oh, this is the one in Finland.
To anyone who could prove they have paranormal abilities. $1 million. It's in the bank. We checked.
But they say they can defy gravity, step over to the window there, and step out. And if you don't fall, hey, you win. You win. Thank you very much for that cheerful greeting. And I must say, UFOs are coming in, or we're getting an echo, one or the other. I'm in a very peculiar business. I'm in the business of traveling all over the world, telling people things they should already know. Now, I do this in every part of the world, and today I'm in Dallas. And I'll bet you there's some things that you folks here in Dallas don't know but should be told, and that's what brought me here. Now, I'm a magician by trade, as you saw from the tape, and as you were told. A magician who uses subterfuge of various kinds in order to fool people, but it's done for purposes of entertainment. It's not done to swindle you, to take your money dishonestly. The magician is the most honest liar in the world. He says, I'm going to fool you, I'm going to trick you, and he goes right ahead and does that. He tells you in advance
that that's what's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things now. As a magician, I have a very deep understanding of two things about human nature. It's my bit of psychology in which I specialize. I know how people are fooled, and I know how people fool themselves. The second one being the most important one. You see, the magician knows the psychology of the victim, of the audience member, whatever, knows it to the extent that he or she can use this against the sensibilities, against the sensory input that we all have. For example, I have already, by walking out here, I have deceived you on 2 counts, and I'll tell you now what those are. First of all, the magician knows that people make assumptions, and you folks easily make assumptions. If you didn't, you'd get catatonic. You'd seize up. Wouldn't be able to do a thing. You'd have to investigate everything before you took any action. Now, I noticed when you came in here this evening, I didn't see one person testing the chair before they sat down. Came in and went plonk right down in the chair. Why? From previous experience of similar situations and the relatively dependable assurance that they're not going to make a chair and leave it in this auditorium if it's going to collapse underneath you and catapult you to the floor. That's an assumption based upon previous experience. And it's a perfectly valid assumption. You sat down? Not that I know of. Did anyone hit the floor? You made an assumption. And I can tell you, as an international traveler, I get all over the world in many different cultures. You've seen traffic signs, traffic lights. They have red and amber and green. And it's a universal international code. Red means stop, green means go, and yellow means go like that. Now that's an international signal, and you can depend upon that. And you can make an assumption that when you're standing on a curb facing a light which is green across the street, and when that light turns red, you should not be moving. When it turns green again, you can step off the curb and you can cross the street in relative safety. Except in New York City, of course, there are exceptions to all rules. But you make that assumption based upon your previous knowledge. Now, I was introduced. You saw the videotape. I stepped out from behind the stage. And you assumed that I walked over to this podium and began using this microphone, which is not the microphone I'm using. It's been dead since the moment I walked out here. The microphone I'm using is this little item right here. You made an assumption that I was talking on that microphone. I even adjusted it to bring it up closer to my mouth. A little bit of misdirection there. You assumed that I was using the microphone, and that's an assumption that won't cost you your life or your emotional security. It won't cost you anything. Free, gratis, no charge. But you made another assumption. You made an assumption that I can see you. Oh, I can hear you all right. My hearing's quite good. My eyesight is really pretty bad. Normally I wear glasses. This evening I'm just wearing the frames. No lenses, but very easy to clean. I think I have the real glasses in here somewhere. Oh yes, there they are, the little rascals, and these do have lenses, and oh my God, they're ugly. But I've got to face them. You made those 2 easy assumptions, and again, I repeat, I know, but it won't cost you anything out of your pocket. It won't cost you your emotional security. It's certainly not going to cost you your lives, but we're going to talk about some things this evening that can do just that. Now, before we get launched properly here, there is something I thought I'd take a certain amount of delight in telling you about. I've recently had an asteroid named after me, and it's called Randi, figures. And I was so proud of this. The International Astronomical Union sent me this announcement, and I looked up all the details on it, and it's up about there, I believe now. What is it now? You can believe me just as well as not. I don't know where it is. It's out there. Not a major planetoid or anything like that, but I got an email, and I emailed Sir Arthur C. Clarke now, and I I said, Arthur, guess what? The IAU just named an asteroid after me. I'm very proud of that. Well, the next day he emailed me back in his dry fashion, and he said, well, that's very nice, and I'm sure you're quite excited over that. They named an asteroid after me 8 years ago. So I thought I'd do a bit of research. I got the IAU catalog up on the internet. I looked up asteroid Clark and asteroid Randi. I had the great delight of being able to email him and say, I noticed in the catalog of asteroids that asteroid Clark is about 8 kilometers on a side. Asteroid Randi is 11 kilometers on a side. Sir Arthur, my asteroid is bigger than your asteroid. And I think he took it in good spirit, though I haven't heard from him since. I don't know about that. And I must tell you that I just got a call from an old friend from many years back that you haven't seen in about 11 years now. And he said to me that he had been watching a Larry King show, and that he saw John Edward, the man who does the Crossing Over program, where he apparently talks with dead folks. And he said the enclosed may help you to educate Larry King and, what is his name? I can't think of the name. Blanked on it. The man, the bald fella. Start with him. Come on. Who? Montel Williams. Thank you. I'm glad you came this evening. Otherwise, I'd be standing here dead. Montel Williams. I couldn't think of the name. And so I spoke to him subsequently, and I said, no, I think Larry King knows exactly what he's doing. So does Montel Williams. They're too smart to think that these people are really talking with the dead. So anyway, it was a great pleasure to have heard again from Johnny Carson. He has been away a long time, but sounded just as good as he did 11 years ago when he went off the air. I'll tell you, he's a mensch, fine gentleman, and he helps out a great deal. We had a long job counting the zeros on that check. Now, I'm going to talk to you about some things that relate directly to you folks personally. We can talk about all kinds of weird psychics that appear on TV and pretend, as I said, to speak to the dead and tell your future and whatnot. But these are some things I think that should interest you directly, right up front. The U.S. Patent Office. Oh, boy, have they gone crazy lately. In the last 5 years, they have patented 3, count them, 3 perpetual motion machines. They don't work, by the way, just in case you were wondering. And countless free energy machines, all kinds of them. And I think that there are folks in this audience, I'd like to see a show of hands if you would. This is not holding your hand up like this is holding your hand up. I'd just like to see a show of hands. How many of you folks have gone into pardon me, a restaurant or a store, made a purchase using cash, and you've offered something like a $50 bill and had the cashier go into the drawer and come out with a black pen and make a stroke on the bill? Let's see hands. How many of you? Oh yeah, haven't we all? That is known as the counterfeit detector pen. Patent number 60501, 357. Patented by the U.S. Patent Office. And it's a crock. It doesn't work. What's in the pen? Tincture of iodine. Well, the theory behind it, when you read the patent papers, that's a great revelation. You read the patent papers. The nut that came up with this very profitable idea, he's made millions on it, sold all over the world, he decided that counterfeiters use cheap paper. I repeat that. Counterfeiters use cheap paper. Why would a guy who's going to turn an ordinary piece of paper into a $100 bill go into Office Depot and say, I'd like a ream of your cheapest paper? The markup on this product is enormous. From $0 to $100 is a pretty good markup, I would say. And the theory is that they use cheap paper which has sizing, which is starch, that has starch in it, and that turns black under iodine. Remember the old chemistry test? With the potato, you put a drop of iodine, it turns black. Wow, what a chemical discovery. I knew that when I was 11 years of age in Canada, and that was in the year 6, I think. It was a long time ago. A simple little chemical reaction like this, and the theory of the inventor was that counterfeiters would choose this cheap paper to print on. Incredible that the patent office would give this guy a patent. We've only gotten started. We've only begun, ladies and gentlemen. The patent office has patented many sillier, more stupid things than that. The perpetual motion machines, they offer the diagrams, they show photographs of the models. Now I want you to read my webpage this week, if you would. I've got some photographs up on there that are very revealing. But can you get anybody to step in and do anything about it? Oh, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, yep. They never relax, work day and night, ever vigilant. Do you remember the stimulator? That was a thing that was on TV all the time, and intellectual giants like Evel Knievel and Shirley MacLaine endorsed it, so we know it must be real. And it showed golfers. They're all very highly intelligent guys, right, chasing a white ball around with a stick, yeah. This looked like a black hypodermic needle, but it didn't have a needle in it. It went click, 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 and they would do this on their arms, the nose, any place. And that was supposed to relieve pain. It was a simple little piezoelectric crystal and a spring in there, and it generated a little spark, and you didn't feel anything, but you paid $75 for it, plus postage, and it sold all over the world. But the FTC, ever vigilant, remember, they came down on them after 8 years of operation. And in 8 years, they made tens of millions of dollars, and they closed them down, and they gave them the maximum fine, $40,000. Anybody who's made a couple of tens of millions of dollars is going to say, George, you got $40,000 in the drawer there? Yeah, pay the guy, will you? All right, I must have $20,000 just in change. Come on, $40,000 fine? Nothing else happened. They just simply went out of business. They're probably living on the Riviera now. But they had a U.S. patent for it, and that's how they sold it all over the world. U.S. patent number so-and-so. Because you assume, in your innocence, that if the patent office gives it a patent, it must work. We haven't even gotten started. 2 things were patented within the last year. I hope there's nobody standing. Cameraman, be careful. You may fall down laughing at this. I'm not making this up, folks. The U.S. Patent Office in Washington, D.C. issued a patent for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And Dunkin' Donuts now has the right to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So if you make one, oh, you can do that. You eat one, that's fine. But don't offer it for sale, or the guys in the black helicopters with the mask and the machine gun, tear gas, shock apparatus, they'll come down and they'll grab you and drag you off to Durant's vial. My God, is there no end to the foolishness of this department? They issue a patent. Oh, there is an end to it, perhaps, because I don't think you can go much further than this. Are you ready? Again? Something worse than that? Oh, yeah. Toast. Toast has been patented. And the patent papers say the process whereby 2 suitably chosen, how, we don't know, slices of bread are placed in front of an electrical or other heating element for a period of time until the surface is lightly charred, at which point they're removed from the source of heat. You now have toast. That has been patented. You can't do it at home, or someone's going to want some money for it. But that's what the U.S. Patent Office is doing, and recently they patented the MEG. But, hey, send up the flags and the fireworks. There's a chance for us maybe to celebrate here. The MEG is a motionless electronic generator. It's simply a big transformer with a lot of wires on it and coils, and 2 wires come off it, and it lights a 6-volt bulb. Well, they don't show you everything in the photograph. There are a couple of little wires going down the back of the cable there. That's just to keep it warm, right? It's a farce. It does not work, but it's been patented by the U.S. Patent Office until our good friend Bob Park, who you may have heard speak from this very same stage, and myself, the James Randi Educational Foundation, bombarded the Patent Office with all kinds of missives saying, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Finally got a letter just a couple of weeks ago saying, we're reconsidering that patent. Hallelujah! Something may happen. Well, no, thank you. Thank you very much. Something else, folks. The Patent Office also patented something for Florsheim shoes. Now, I wear Florsheim shoes, very fine shoes, in business 106 years here in the United States of America. They patented the MagnaForce shoe. What, you may ask in your curious frame of mind, is the MagnaForce shoe? I'll tell you. It's an ordinary shoe that for $25 extra, they will insert unipolar magnets in the soles, one in the heel, one in the middle, one at the toe. Unipolar magnets? There's no such thing, friends. If there were, Nobel Prize winning, ding, 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 blow the trumpets. Unipolar magnet? Every magnet's got 2 poles, and it's stuck with them. That's all there is to it. 2 poles, no more, but no less. And yet they get unipolar magnets specially prepared. And they put them in the soles of the shoes. And the literature that comes with the pair of shoes, I'm not making this up, friends. No, this is what the Florsheim Shoe Company printed in this brochure. They said that these magnets interact with the natural magnetic force of the Earth. We've heard about that, right? In such a way as to cause the blood, if it has iron in it, you see, to circulate faster in your body as you walk. Oh boy, I can just feel the blood rushing through. And then it goes on to say the magnetic force of the Earth, the North and South poles that are natural to the Earth. Natural is a buzzword, you know. Well, bird poo is natural too, and I don't get it. But nonetheless, it's natural. The natural poles of the Earth are the only force that keeps human beings from spinning off into space. This was given to them by a PhD named Gary Null, who got his PhD via mail. But it's a PhD, so you can't doubt a PhD. They know everything. You know that. Absolutely infallible. PhD. Wrong. A Florsheim Shoe Company has been selling this shoe, as I say, $25 extra for putting 3 magnets in the soles of the thing. They just recently discontinued it when the original owner of the family, Florsheim, bought the company back from the company that had bought it from the family, and he discontinued the magnet shoes. My question, is he going to send people around to all the customers and have the magnets extracted from the shoes? I just wonder. It's like recalling a Ford. I'm recalling Florsheim shoes and take the magnets out of them. I don't think so. But nonetheless, these shoes were snapped up and raved over by all kinds of people who said that they enabled, I beg your pardon. Excuse me. If I ate the hamburger too fast. I am shocked, annoyed, amused to a certain extent, but more than anything, I'm angry at the fact that this has happened. People are being swindled, they're having money taken away from them quite dishonestly, through dishonest advertising and representation. And I think something should be done to stop it. Well, the Patent Office has made a slight turn in that direction after we nagged the hell out of them by letters and emails and whatnot, all kinds of circulation of the news that they were patenting these stupid devices. And they finally have apparently made some sort of a turn. I hope that it really works. Now, as you heard on that videotape, the JREF, as we affectionately call the James Randi Educational Foundation, offers a $1 million prize to any person or persons who can provide evidence of any paranormal, occult, or supernatural force, power, ability, or demonstration of any kind under proper observing conditions. Now you would think that they'd be hammering down the door at the foundation in Fort Lauderdale. No, not quite. The professionals never come anywhere near us. We wrote to John Edward, the man of Crossing Over, who talks the spirits right. And his agent answered us. He said, "Dear sirs, Mr. Edward does not respond to criticism. Yours truly." He can make $1 million in half an hour, but instead, he just refused. He doesn't answer the criticism. Now, I'm using that excuse next time I'm stopped by a traffic cop. "Officer, I'm James Randi, and I don't respond to criticism. Thank you very much. Have a nice day." Well, yeah, right. You try that, I try that, it's not going to work. But apparently with John Edward, it does work. Well, I'm not too satisfied with that either. Well, now, the Department of Energy in the United States of America has a huge budget. I don't know what it is. It's many billions of dollars up there. And 3 years ago, they contacted me through Sandia Labs, and they said, "Mr. Randi, do you know anything about a man?" And they named the fellow, and I said, "Oh yes, we know him very well here." "Oh, what's he doing?" "Well, what he's selling is simply a dowsing rod, and it simply doesn't work. We tested the dowsing rod, and it doesn't work, and that was the end of that." "Oh, I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Randi." And they saved themselves a huge amount of money. They did not investigate this. It cost them, they figured, about $1.60 for the long-distance phone call from Albuquerque, New Mexico. 2 months ago, they spent $285,000 to investigate exactly the same thing. And guess what? It didn't work this time either. But they didn't call us first. I wonder why. I had somebody within the organization explain it to me in very gentle terms. "Mr. Randi, this is funding for our organization." "Wait a minute! That's $285,000 of your money and mine that got blown down the drain because they brought some guys over from the Ukraine who had a coat hanger wire that was supposed to indicate pollutants underground." Now, coat hanger wires don't cost much. You know, they're pretty cheap. You can get them from the clear. They'll give you a handful if you want. Look at the back of the cover. They're all over the place. You have to throw them out every now and then. But that's exactly what they were trying to sell the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy is a federal organization that we support with our tax money. And this sort of thing should not be happening. There was another rod that was called the DKL. That means dielectrokinetics. It's got a big name. It must be scientific or German. One or the other. The dielectric kinetic organization, DKL Labs, is still selling a dowsing rod, and the customs people have bought it, the U.S. Customs. Now, it's not approved yet as a probable cause for searching passengers getting off aircraft, you see, but they got a way around that. Because if a person were searched by means of the DKL rod, which has, it looks like a TV remote with an antenna sticking out of it, this kind of a thing. If they were searched on the results of that machine, they could have it thrown out of court immediately because it's not a probable cause for search and detention. But a dog is. Now the dogs are very sensitive, and we know dogs can do this. They can sniff out drugs that we're absolutely insensitive to. They can sniff out very, very small traces, no matter how well you try to wash it off. Dogs are pretty good at this, and they do a lot of busts. So what they do, I hope you're ready for this, they send in the dogs, and if the dogs trigger on something, then they use the DKL rod. And needless to say, that always works, because it's entirely in the hand of the guy who's wobbling it around trying to get it to point in the right direction, and he can sure as hell do that. That's not hard to do at all. But the DKL rod is being sold to customs agents and the police departments. I went to Seminole County in the northern end of Florida. Wolfgang Haubig is the gentleman's name. Very well-intentioned gentleman, retired state trooper, who's now in charge of security for the school system in Seminole County. And he showed me how he could pick up pot, marijuana, dope, Mary Jane, whatever. in kids' lockers. Don't tell me kids in school have something like that in their lockers. Oh, say not so. Apparently they do. Because all the lockers were empty for the season. And he went down, oh, look there, opens it up, nothing in it. He said, but there used to be pot in here. This is what they call residual vibration. I call it stupidity. We have different terminology for the same thing sometimes. This is the kind of thing I investigate every day. But there are some of them that are a lot more important. I made a trip to Russia some years ago. Well, that's what you saw on the tape. That program was very, very well done. I'm very proud of that program. It was perhaps the best program I've ever had done on my work. We went to Russia, and not all of the stuff that we uncovered there we had time to put on a one-hour program. But the state of parapsychological research, so-called, in Russia was abysmally poor. It was really bad. They had psychics, for example, who were bending spoons and such, very much like Mr. Geller used to. Oh yes, the restaurant over here is very fine. I recommend their spoons very highly. I won't mention the restaurant we went to, but they voluntarily gave us this without knowing. It's a technical term. We promoted it. It's called promoting. It jumped into my pocket when I wasn't watching. I would like a volunteer on the stage. Someone, let me see, who could we use? I would no, we know you folks already. No, don't point at somebody else. Why are you pointing at somebody? Oh, you're pointing at her. Yeah, right, yeah. And you'll beat them up when you get home, right? I don't want to have that happen. I just need how about the gentleman on the end here? Would you kind of just step up on the stage for a moment? Yeah. Won't hurt. All right, I'm a doctor. Come over to the podium here, if you would, please. Now this is, I can't, it says, let's just say stainless something over there. Spartan, oh yeah, Spartan Final. They sell cutlery and stuff for restaurants. This is stainless steel, I assume. I'd like you to turn and face the audience. You're pretty ugly, but you have to look at it. Hold on to the spoon between your fingers like that, please, at each end. Very good. Now, I'm just going to stroke it from here. I won't even look. I can do this without looking. And if you see anything peculiar happen, you just announce it to me, all right? You feel anything funny?
Not yet.
You may not be the right assistant. I'm just going to hold it firmly, okay? I'm just going to wiggle it like this. Oh, that seems to be foaming straight. You feel that? Sort of a little bump, sort of a thing like that. Look and see, there's getting thirsty. Sort of rubbery. I really look, it just seems to, look. Didn't let go of it for a minute. I'm going to hold it right here so everyone can see it. I guess this background is pretty good too. I'm going to wiggle it back and forth. You get the impression, you get the strong impression, it actually seems to be getting flexible. The thing was sort of rubbery and it's like a piece of wet spaghetti. Remember the way? You didn't see that. Yeah, it was, you're not be able to see it just as well as that. But look at this, look at this. I'm scared now. Hold your hands up in front of you. Oh, a miracle of a semi-religious nature. You can take that back into the audience and we'll have a big round of applause for the gentleman. This is a simple trick that first appeared in 1968. That was in the last century, you may remember it. And it appeared in a periodical issued to the magicians. It's called Abracadabra. It's published. It was published by, at that time, by a man named Goodliffe in London, England. And this very demonstration, somewhat different from that because it took much more time and had all kinds of fantastic things, choreography that went with it, which I don't use. And it appeared back there, and kids were pretty soon doing it, but it didn't get very popular. Then a man named Murray Geller came along, and about that time, and he started to bend spoons, but he said he did it with his mind, and that he got the power from the planet Uba. I don't know what else they sent us, maybe back in Kleenex. Whatever the story, he said he came from the planet Uba, and he had this particular ability. Of what use it is, I really haven't figured out yet, except to make the cutlery companies a little wealthier. You write a lot of spoons that way, and forks and do stuff like that. But it seems rather useless to me. Otherwise, I don't think it's moved mankind forward one bit. However, Mr. Geller obtained a lot of fame doing this. Now, he says he does it by genuine means, and he is a very litigious person. He has sued me many times over the years. It cost me literally a couple of $100,000 just defending charges. He's never won, but he brings these charges against me every now and then for slander and libel and good stuff like that. So I'm very careful what I say. And I will say to you that what you just saw done by me is a simple conjuring trick. It's a magician's trick. It's in books. It's called the spoon bending and breaking trick, which is a good title for it, don't you think? Simple and plain and straightforward. Mr. Geller says that he does it with his powers from the planet Huma. I say it's a trick. And I also say, Mr. Geller, if you're doing it with mystical psychic powers, you do it the hard way. Because it's a lot easier to do this way. The funny thing is that the way I do it, the way he does it, indiscernible. You can't tell the difference. So maybe there's a message in there someplace too. But I would like to do a demonstration for you, which is, again, a trick, a replication of something Mr. Geller has done from time to time, and it involves a gentleman's wristwatch. I would like to borrow a wristwatch from somebody I haven't met, and I want one with real hands on it. None of these silly things with the digits on it. I'm old-fashioned enough to, and I'd like to borrow one from you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. You're very convenient down here, sir. I thought you were the white woman. Is this a Rolex? I say, oh, see, because Rolex, this could match potatoes. You know, this is about as heavy as I've ever seen a watch. Now, this is a calendar watch as well, is it? Yes, it is. And it has 2 time zones on it. Okay. Now, the time we agree on the time. It's 17 minutes past 8 o'clock, and I say that's just about it. Would you do me a favor? You just hold out your hand flat like that. Very good. The clean one. Now, put the finger of your other hand on the back of the watch, would you? Thank you. Hold up a little higher. That's okay. Now, hey! Oh, I forgot it myself. I've got to be careful with my edge, you know. I don't have to do that with the magician's union likes. Let me take a peek at it again, if you would, please. Check it. Hold it flat and, you're not concentrating, are you? I didn't tell you. Okay, all right, yeah. Let's both work on it now. Hiya! Ha! Let me take a peek at it, please. Oh, what time does it say now? Would you tell the audience what time it says, please?
It says 8:45.
How time flies when you're having fun. Now, I'm going to do this for you all over again. But this time I'm going to do it in slow motion and let you catch me, okay? In slow motion so that you'll be able to catch me because I was, pretty swift with it. In slow motion. I would like to... that, I'd spend all evening doing this. Now, let me have the watch again, and watch carefully now. Watch, get it set. I take the watch from the gentleman, and I say to him, oh, this is a Seiko watch. Oh, I've got it upside down. A Seiko watch. And I take it in this hand, and I look at my watch, and while I'm looking at my watch, my finger down here is pulling out the winding stem. But you didn't know that because you're all looking at my watch too, you see? And I say 20 past, well it says now it's at 4:09, so it's 8:45. Isn't that amazing? Then, as I turn away and I just lower my hand, I quickly go zip with my finger like that. Now it's exactly 9 o'clock, you see? Quickly like that, and then I press the stem back in again like that. And Then I turn the watch over, and you can't see underneath the watch. I've got to tilt it away from you anyway. Hold out your hand, please, sir. And I put the watch at the clean one. Well, anyway, put your finger on it. And I do. Now, it's already changed, you see, but I go, oh, I think I hurt myself. And then I take the watch, I say, let me see it. And I say, handling it very carefully now, you notice. I say, not yet, which is a lie, because it's already 9 o'clock on here. See, and I say, oh, I didn't ask you to concentrate. I again give it back to you. See, now you're going to really watch me. If you think I haven't done it yet, I'm going to catch him. But it's too late. The horse is already out of the barn down the road. You see? Put it back on your hand and put your finger on it. The whole thing. And I say, look at that. Oh! And what time is it now? It is now 9 o'clock. And everybody is astonished. And people think that it's a miracle. And often, not all the time, but often I get a round of applause for that. Now, the interesting thing about this is, pay attention to this, please. I have now shown you how this trick is done. I've gone through every step of it. I've done it for you in slow motion, so you see me doing it. And now you say to yourself, I know how that trick is done. If you see some fake out on the stage doing this sort of thing, you'll know how to catch him, right? Wrong. What time does it say on the watch, sir?
25 after 9.
While I was standing here telling you how smart you are, I did it again. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I thank you very much for the use of your watch. Now I'm about to show you a little demonstration. This is because I have to sort of take the edge off this business of scientists being fooled and such. People say, folks like you who are not scientists, and there are many scientists here, but most of us aren't scientists, and we say, gee, I don't understand all that scientific stuff. But I'll bet real top scientists like physicists, oh, they're special folks. Did you know that? Oh, physicists are absolutely separate from the rest of humanity. See, I have a theory about PhDs, which I'll share with you briefly. It's only a theory, but it's based upon good evidence and observation. Now, I have been to ceremonies in colleges where they have a bunch of people sitting over here in the audience, and they have a gentleman standing up on the stage here, and in front of him, a bunch of diplomas with little ribbons on them, see? Now, the people in the audience are not PhDs yet. They're just ordinary mortals. Just regular folks. Smart, educated, but they're not PhD yet. That's an exalted position. And one at a time, when their name is called, they come up the stairs and they walk across, and this gentleman here, he shakes them by the hand, and with the other hand, he hands them this little roll of paper, and they take that, and they smile down, and they wave to mom and dad, and they leave the stage. But at that moment, there is all. If you listen carefully, you can hear right in the distance, very, very faint, trumpets, the whole thing, you can hear it up there, the heavenly chorus, you see. Not that. Heavenly chorus. Oh, that sounds like any good. I have a theory about this, because I was very suspicious. The guy who hands out those rolls of paper wears gloves. What gloves? Why? Why? I get suspicious as a skeptic, as an investigator in these matters, and I worked out a theory, and this is supported by all the evidence that I have. I think that on those rolls of paper, there's a secret genetically engineered chemical. Specially designed so that when the recipient takes that in his or her hand, the chemical goes directly into the skin, into the blood, right directly to the brain, paralyzes a specific portion of the speech center in the brain. That part of the speech center is dedicated to saying just two things: I don't know and I was wrong. There were several PhDs here are not applauding. Now, I base that entirely upon my observations of PhDs. I've seen them try to say those things, and it's not a pretty picture. I was relieved I don't. They have a very hard time, and some of them go into connections that you wouldn't want to see. And that's based upon 100% of the evidence that I have. So there. And of course, I'm only kidding, because, folks, when I tell you, say a little joke like that, you may get the impression that I, as not an academic person, not a person with a college degree, that I may be making jokes about scientists and real academics out there who really do reveal a great deal of this wonderful world to us, succinctly, correctly, properly, clearly, and make a great deal of difference in our lives. I have total respect for these folks, and I want you to know that, and I hope that you share that with me. But Lawrence Livermore Lab, that's a different matter. I got a call from a PhD, who I won't name to embarrass him, to try not to embarrass him, pardon me. And he said, Mr. Randi, your $1 billion has been won. I said, really? Ooh, scared to death, of course. Could have happened. I said, how come? He said, well, a fellow named Ronnie Marcus has come over from Israel, and he's a student of psychic forces, and he did something for us, and we're all PhDs in physics here, and we observed very, very carefully. He said for us to get a little box of matches, and we got a box of matches, and we bought it at a local store. He wasn't with us, and we took it to the lab, and we examined it with laser beams and infrared and ultraviolet rays. That's heavy stuff. And we put it through magnetometer, and we scanned it very carefully, and we found there were no threads or wires or magnets or anything like that. We even took a couple of matches and tested them chemically, and they're perfectly ordinary matches. And then we gave him a box of matches, and he was able to do something miraculous for which we have no explanation whatsoever. Now, I'm willing to accept evidence, folks, but this is what they told me they did. They gave him the box of matches, and he placed it on the back of his hand like this. And they were describing this to me over the phone, and I'm waiting for Andrew Harder, my assistant. Andrew, get on the other phone. And so while he was describing this, I said, get Martin Gardner's book of ping pong shooting tricks. The big pink book, right? Yeah. Look up this thing. You know what this is. This is what Ronnie Marcus did. He simply gestured at the box. And the box slowly began to rise. The standing position on the back of his hand. Then, as he said to the box, return, the box went back down again to the back of his hand. Remarkable. And they had examined it for threads and magnets and the whole thing, laser beams, ultraviolet, remember I told you the whole thing, right? I don't know how it's done. Caught again. Well, what I did was I had Andrew look up the right page, it was page 74, in Martin Gardner's book of Impromptu Magic. And I said, copy it on the copy machine. I said to the gentleman at the other end, do you have a fax number there? I said, oh yes, yes. I gave him the fax number. I said, just stand by the fax machine. He said, it's right here. I said, just watch the fax machine. He put it in, and through the fax machine, and I heard silence on the other end. As you see, the way the trick is done is you just leave the box open a little bit like that. Just a little gap at the back. And as you put it down the back of your hand, you pinch some of the skin of the back of your hand. Oh. It's not done with lasers or magnets or superconductivity or anything like that. And then you simply tighten up the skin in the back of your hand, up goes the box. And then back down goes the box. It's that simple. And anybody can learn to do it. Mean that these PhDs are stupid in some way? No. What they have done is they have gone beyond their expertise. You see, I was in at the Fermi Labs in Chicago doing a lecture there a couple of years ago, and while I was there, I developed Two things. I knew what it was. I had a filling that I knew eventually had to be replaced. I developed it today. Now these are PhDs, very high-ranking PhDs at Fermi Labs. Did I ask any of them advice on this? Did I ask them to look at my mouth, fix my teeth? No, because that's not their expertise. But when I got back to Fort Lauderdale, I went to my dentist, and he fixed it like that. I didn't ask him about tachyons and protons and photons. I didn't ask him about any problems in physics, because he doesn't know about that. He fixes teeth. The other guy do physics. They do physics, he does teeth. Everyone has their own expertise. My expertise is how people are fooled and how they fool themselves. But these PhDs in physics were far outside of their field. By the way, we just heard a quiet little click on the phone after the facts had been transmitted, and we never heard from them again. That was 6 years ago now. But that doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means they're stepping outside of their field of expertise. Now, I'm going to tell you about something that really has me very much alarmed. It's a thing called therapeutic touch. It's not therapeutic, and it doesn't involve touch, but that shouldn't surprise you by now. It is practiced by an estimated 53,000 registered nurses in the United States of America alone. It was developed by a nurse named Dolores Krieger, PhD in nursing from Columbia University Hospital, pardon me, in New York City. And it involves altering and evening out the human aura. And you do it by running your hands like this over the body, not touching the body, no touch involved, though it's called therapeutic touch. You do this kind of thing until the aura is all evened out. Now, I have a videotape in my library in Florida that is really alarming. It shows an operating room scene. It was taken from a newscast. Surgeons dressed in green, operating lights on, patient on the table, laid open for some sort of an operation. I don't know what. Nurse is standing by, and suddenly another nurse approaches in green, and she goes like that with her hands, and the surgeons drop the instruments and stand back, and she goes over to the patient and goes, and she turns away and starts to take off her mask and leaves the room. That's a nurse doing therapeutic touch, evening out the human energy field or the human aura. There's no such thing. Now, nursing schools all over this country are teaching therapeutic touch. It's taught as part of the nursing procedure in this country. This is shameful. It's a disgrace to the nursing profession, and responsible nurses who have contacted me over the years all agree with that assessment. Now, I must say that the American Medical Association, the AMA, some years ago, in the journal of the AMA, JAMA, the JAMA, came out with a 2.5-page article written by Emily Rosa. And the Rosa family are all nurses in the Rosa family. So they were very familiar with this. She did a test. She asked the therapeutic touch people to come along, and they said they could sense the human aura. They will come up to you, that's your body, they'll come up to you and say, whoa, you've got a very heavy, whoa, I can feel it, just like rubber, like foam rubber, whoa, boy, very strong. It's a little weak on this side, a little thin on this side, but very good here. You may have a problem here where it's thin. They really do this, seriously. They say they can feel it, and it gives way before their hands like foam rubber. Okay? They said they could sense when somebody else's hand is close to them if they got a strong aura. Well, Emily Rosa did a simple thing, built a little screen out of cardboard and a couple of towels, and she made some phone calls. She asked these people to come around and be tested, and they came around. They lined up outside. She'd sit them down, and all she did was she was on one side of the screen, they were on the other. They couldn't see each other, and she would flip a coin. If it came down heads, she would hold her hand over their right hand. both their hands, pardon me, therapeutic touch people had their hand sticking through the screen. If it came downhill, she would hold it over the left. It was all videotaped, going up in the air, click, falls, and then she'd say, ready? And they would say whether it's the right or left hand. Guess the results. 50% correct. We'd expect that from Chinese fortune cookies, throwing dice, or anything else. Tossing a coin, that's exactly what they got. 50% of their guesses were right. It was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. I have spoken to medical scientists in several centers around the world, including Europe. And they said, no, a test of therapeutic touch would be very, very expensive and would take several weeks, and we just can't tie ourselves up in that kind of work. Emily Rossi did it. It cost her a total of $10. The cardboard, the tools for the phone calls to get the people there, total of $10. Emily Rosa was 11 years old. 11 years old, and she was able to design something that the MDs and the PhDs could not design. Mind you, we helped her. We gave her the protocol for the thing and how she should do the randomization and whatnot. She followed it through, and she got published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. 2 weeks later, the editor was fired. Because she wasn't an academic. You don't publish papers by 11-year-old girls, apparently. That's what's going on in science and in medicine, folks, and you should know about it, and you should be very aware of it. That tens of millions of dollars are spent by patients on their insurance plans frequently to have a nurse come in the middle of an operation and run her hands over the body to even out the human energy field. Well, we've offered our $1 million for this. We offered it through some of the nursing magazines. A Philadelphia hospital cooperated with us. They set aside a lab for us. We set up a screen, and we had a person on one side, a person on the other, a fiberglass sleeve into which they either put their arm or didn't put their arm, depending on the toss of the coin, recorded on video on both sides, to be perfectly fair. The one woman who came in from Los Angeles got 10 right and 10 wrong instead of 20 tries. Exactly what chance would dictate. But only one person came for the $1 million prize. And this is thousands, tens of thousands of nurses in the United States of America who do this professionally, and not one of them will come to us to win the $1 million prize. It would take you 30 minutes. Why? I think I know, and I think you know too. They simply can't do it. I'm going to show you a piece of videotape. Ready? This will be videotape number 2. This is the racket known as faith healing. And it's been going on for many, many years now. Started with a man back in the 1500s named Great Riggs. He was doing the same racket, a little less classy, didn't have TV or the internet working for him, but these people do. You may have seen on the Black Entertainment Network a man named Peter Popov. Peter Popov is of Russian origin. He was born in this country, but his parents are Russian. And I intercepted him some years ago. As a matter of fact, I saw him performing in San Francisco. I called a good friend of mine, an investigator, which you'll learn about on the screen in a moment. He came in and he equipped us with the right technology to be able to find out about Peter Popov. Now, first of all, I'll give you a quick demonstration of what W.V. Grant, a contemporary of his, was doing. And this is a step-for-step and word-for-word reenactment of what W.V. Grant was doing. Big black Bible under his arm with yellow slips of paper stuck in here. And comes down the aisle. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. God is good. Opens up the library, the book at one of the marks there, takes the yellow slip of paper off, puts it in his pocket, reads a passage from the Bible, closes the Bible up. Bill. Why am I saying Bill? And then, in the end of the row, puts up his hand. Is your name Bill? Jesus is sending me to you. And Jesus is telling me that you have Arthritis of the knees? What is your problem, Bill? Bill says, I have arthritis of the knees. Have you ever spoken to me before? Have you ever met me before? Have you ever seen me before, Bill? No, I haven't, Reverend. But you know me from television. Yes, I do, Reverend. Bill, I'm seeing a number in fire. A number of 116. Does that mean anything to you? Because wait, don't tell me, Bill. That's a doorway, and there's an angel of God standing over that doorway with a huge smile. Hallelujah! And the crowd goes crazy. He says, what is 116 to you, Bill? He says, that's my address. I live at 116 8th Avenue. Did you tell that to me or anyone else, Bill? No, I didn't, Reverend. Well, Jesus is going to heal you. Jesus is going to heal you, and you're going to go and tell Dr. Gladstone. What is your doctor's name? Dr. Gladstone. You tell that to me or anyone? No, I didn't. You're going to go see Dr. Gladstone and say, I had Dr. Jesus, and I don't need you anymore. No, I don't need you anymore. I'm healed. Stand up out of your wheelchair. He stands up out of the wheelchair. Go over and touch that wall there, and come back and tell us that Dr. Jesus is healed. And Bill does that. With great difficulty, he walks over to the wall, he touches the wall, tears streaming down his face, comes over, goes to sit in the wheelchair, and Grant grabs the wheelchair and flings it aside and says, no, you don't need that no more. Sit down in that chair because you've been healed by Dr. Jesus. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. How does he do it? He didn't know this man before, never met him. This man did not tell Grant anything. Did he guess this? Well, we went through the garbage afterwards, and among the bourbon bottles and chicken fillet wrappers and whatnot, we found yellow slips of paper from his pocket. On one of them was written, Bill, 116 8th Avenue, Dr. Gladstone, arthritis of the knees, Grace Hospital. It was written on one of the yellow pieces of paper. That's what he was reading off the paper, not the quotation from the Bible. And he put it in his pocket. He got it from the garbage. That was his technique. Mrs. Grant had been down previously and had interviewed him. We were there 2 hours earlier, and we saw her come down to Bill, who didn't have a wheelchair. She said, Bill, why don't you sit in this wheelchair? We'll bring you up. I don't need no wheelchair. No, give him the wheelchair. Then Reverend Grant will know you need to be healed. That was Grant's wheelchair, and he had 30 more of them. And when he said, is that your wheelchair? Bill said, yes. Well, you don't need it no more. He threw it very carefully because they had to use that in the next service. Well, then we came upon Popoff. Popoff seemed to be several cuts above that. What you're going to see on the screen is Dr. Popoff exposed on the Johnny Carson show. Yeah, I had to go over everybody said, so I went directly to Johnny Carson. Let's see that videotape now, if you please.
First of all, a short segment of tape. As you would see it if you're watching it at home, this is what Popoff featured on his own program, you will apparently see a healing. We went to Houston, Texas, and we discovered that the man was wearing, of all things, a hearing aid in his left ear, and a man who heals the deaf, Popoff himself.
Oh, I see.
And a man who heals the deaf and the blind isn't going to have much use for a hearing aid. One would think, if God is speaking to him, maybe someone else is speaking to him. So when we got to San Francisco, we put this fellow Alec Jason as an expert in electronics and a surveillance man, and he put a scanner, an electronic scanner on it, and we picked up something interesting. But first, let's look at the first cut of tape.
All right, this is the tape as you would see it if you were watching the show. Okay, watch the monitors.
Who is Harold?
Great voice, don't you think?
I just believe that God is going to burn those cataracts off of your eyes right now. 34788 Foothill Drive. I tell you, the angels of God are round about your home. Oh, just take those glasses off and put your eyes. If you've got cataracts, if you got glaucoma, I want you just to put your hand over your eyes as I pray for these precious ones. Sister, you've got eye problems, to take your glasses off, lay your hands on your eyes. Here it comes to God is going to give these precious ones divine surgery. Right now, Jesus. That's it. That's the anointing of the Holy Ghost. Praise God. Praise God. I tell you, the anointing is flowing through this place. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay. Okay, now let's recap what we've seen here. These two people who were there had not met Papa before themselves. And yet he calls out his name, and then he calls out a number or something?
He calls out their address.
Their address.
And they're astonished to hear this, because they didn't tell him. But what you don't know is that his wife has been touring around the audience, getting into conversation. Is Jesus going to heal you today? I see. Where do you live? This kind of thing. And they filled out healing cards in advance of the program and handed them in there. Now backstage, and someone is sitting at a transmitter backstage. Let's see that same segment again. But now you will have the advantage of knowing what Peter Popoff is hearing in his left ear through a hearing aid.
Jerry Reed.
Is it Jerry?
Reed.
Reed? Is it Reed? Jerry Reed?
It's a woman. She's praying for her husband, Harold.
Who is Harold?
He's got cataract.
I just believe that God is going to burn those cataracts off of your eyes right now.
They live at 34788 Foothill Drive.
34788 Foothill Drive. I tell you, the angels of God are round about your home. Just take those glasses off and put your eyes. If you've got cataracts,
she's got eye problems too.
You've got glaucoma, I want you just to put your hand over your eyes as I pray for these precious ones. Sister, you've got eye problems too. Take your glasses off, lay your hands on your eyes. Here it comes. Now God is going to give these precious ones divine surgery. Rock out, Jesus.
You know, that is, that's disturbing when you see it.
It is indeed.
You tend to laugh at it, and yet these people obviously are so impressed with what's going on.
Oh, they're absolutely impressed. You see people collapse on the floor, tears running down their faces, believing that their kids with drug addiction are going to be healed now because he knew their name. He says he's talking to God, that God speaks directly to him because he's an anointed minister. And three things amaze me about that. First of all, it turns out that God's frequency, I didn't know he used radio, is 39.170 megahertz. And God is a woman, obviously, and sounds exactly like Papa's wife, Elizabeth.
Has he seen this tape?
No, he does not know about this until this very moment.
Interesting. Okay, we'll take a break.
Now, I must say, you'd think that would be the end of Popoff. He declared bankruptcy 4 days later. Apparently he went out of business. He was fabulously wealthy. We got reports from people formerly on his staff who said that he used to take them through the house and show them on blue velvet cut diamonds of 3 and more carats that he had collected over the years, gold bars, ingots, and platinum bars that he said was for a rainy day. Well, that was his rainy day. But he declared bankruptcy, and he got away with it. Federal authorities paid no attention to us whatsoever, and when we told them about the walk-in vault that he had in his home, we gave him the address, the whole thing, the 2 gold Mercedes that he and his wife had, told them about all these things, they paid no attention. They gave him bankrupt status. So he got it, and he got away with it. He's back in business, as I say, in the Black Entertainment Network now. Back in business because he's found a new audience. He uses usually old tapes from previous programs, because when you see the promos come on, or the box office, or the post office box that you can send money to, pardon me, he looks a lot older in those announcements because the tapes are from some 20 years previously. He's using old tapes. The people, most of whom will be dead by now, of the diseases they thought they were healed of. I'm going to introduce you to another subject which I've had a lot of research with over the years. Although I'm not a scientist, boy, have I become familiar with this subject. First of all, a simple lesson in mathematics. 10. 10 to the power 1 equals 10. You'll see the reason for this in a minute. 10 to the power 2 equals 100. See, 2 zeros after the 1 is indicated by the index up here. So, of course, pardon me, 10 to the power 3 is 1,000. Okay, we got the system here whereby we can label that simple number 10. Homeopathy. Anybody in this audience have any idea what homeopathy is? You don't have to give the whole theory because it's a long thing. Yes, right down here.
Yes, you'll print something in a substance, usually water, and then dilute it horrendously. It maintains some print of it.
Yeah, that's the theory. It's not the fact, it's the theory. There are 4 rules to homeopathy, and I'm going to give each one of them to you. Now, this is not the whole story. They go on for hours on this. I will just give you the 4 main rules. First rule of homeopathy is you do a proving. In proving, you get a patient in. This is research, you see. You get a patient in who is well. How you determine that, I don't know. If the person can stand on their own and is warm, I guess that means well. So then you give the well patient substance X. We'll say it's old milkweed juice or something like that. Oh, that must be nasty. Blah. But you give that to them, and they develop symptoms A, B, and C. Okay? We'll say that the symptoms are you get very red in the face, your head swells up like a balloon, and you fall to the ground every 20 minutes in a dead faint. Those are symptoms you're likely to notice. And very obvious. So you write that down in your book. That's called a proving. Rule number 2. You wait until a patient comes into your office, sits down and says, "Doctor, I've got a problem." And the doctor looks and says, "I see your face is very red. Face is swollen up like a balloon. Tell me, do you fall down and dead faint on the ground every 20 minutes?" "Yes, doctor, you're very perceptive." "I do." We've got that in the book. You go into the book and say, what causes that? Milkweed sap. Ooh. Okay? We've got the cure for it. We'll give you milkweed sap. That's the second rule of homeopathy. It's like it cures like, you see? Don't look at me, it's their idea. Rule number 3 is you don't do that. No, you don't give them milkweed sap. You give them highly diluted essence of milkweed sap. Diluted? You ain't heard diluted until you hear this. All right. I hear you. 10 to the power 1 is 10. They prepare homeopathic medicines by taking 1 part of the substance and 10 parts of water and successing it. That means shaking it. It's a new term. But successing is special. You give it 10 shakes this way, 10 shakes this way, and 10 shakes this way. But only 10. 10 is the magic number in homeopathy. Never forget that. 10, the magic number. Ta-da! That's called successing. That is a number 1 solution. That's the one never used. But then you take 1 part of the number 1 solution and you put it in 10 parts of water, and you'll get a 2 solution, 1 part in 100. Now dig, 10 times, and the whole thing. And that's a 2 solution. You never use that. 3 solution, far too complicated. Too concentrated, pardon me. Never use the 3 solution. They go up and start at 10 to the 20th. That's 1 with 20 zeros written after it, parts of water, and 1 part of the original substance, whatever it may happen to be. That's a 20 solution. The 4th rule of homeopathy is the more dilute it is, the more powerful it is. They will go all the way up, are you ready for this? To 10 to the power of 1,500. And if you think I'm going to write that out there, you're nuts. 1,500 zeros after the 1 and 1 part of medicine in that. But that's the most powerful mixture they got. The more dilute it is, the more powerful it is. That's the 4th rule of homeopathy. But there's more to it. I'm just getting into the basics. Okay, let's go back to 10 to the 20th. Let's go up to 10 to the 24th, 25th. Then you've reached what they call Avogadro's limit. Now, Avogadro, I never met the man. He was a very difficult fellow in the way he made limits and stuff. Avogadro's limit, it's called. And when you get to that dilution, that means there's only 1 molecule or atom of the original substance present, probably, in the solution that you have. So when you go 10 to the 26th, that means there's 1 chance in 10 of there being 1 molecule or atom of the substance there. This is highly dilute. I asked Martin Gardner, formerly of Scientific American magazine, what does this kind of dilution mean in lay terms? And he went away, came back, called me, said, I hope you're seated. This is what it means. A dilution like that would be equivalent to taking 1 grain of rice. That's uno, eins, ein. 1. 1 grain of rice, crushing it to a powder, dissolving it in a sphere of water the size of the solar system, with the sun at the center and the orbit of Pluto at the outside, and then proceeding to duplicate that 1 billion times, and you would have that kind of solution. Now, where do you get the chicken, I really don't know. But I'll leave that to the theorists, you see. Maybe that's the cause of earthquakes. We don't know, though, do we? You see? This is what homeopathy is. Now, wait a minute. I got a whole case full of homeopathic stuff in here. Oh, I don't want to spare you any of this. Here's a whole raft of it. I've got all kinds of it here. Totally worth, but very expensive. It costs you on an average, we figured out, 1.7 times as much as medicines that actually do work. This is for migraine headaches. What's the active ingredient here? All natural sources, so that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. White bryony. What the hell is white bryony? I have no idea. But this I do know. Calms Forte it's called. And there are 32 caplets in here. Non-habit forming, but natural, says right here. Remember I said bird poo is natural, so is gravel. I don't need either one of them. I mean, natural doesn't mean much really when you come right down to it. Oh, non-habit forming. No, it's and harmless says here. Yes, it's also useless. But they don't say that. Well, inside here we have a bottle with 32 little caplets in it. And I did a demonstration before the U.S. Congress, or the representatives of the U.S. Congress in the Sam Rayburn Auditorium a couple of years back. I sent a congressional aide, then I gave him a $20 bill, then another $20 bill, and said, go out and buy 2 packets of this at the druggist across the street. Went up, came back with it. I said, empty both containers, that's 64 tablets, into this glass. Because it says right on the label here, it says, limit 2 tablets every 4 hours. In case of an overdose, call your poison control center. 64 tablets would be 32 times the dose. So in front of the Congressional Committee, I swallowed the whole thing in a glass of water, burped once, and I didn't even feel sleepy, and I survived to come here to Dallas. So there. That's how sleepy it made me. Of course it doesn't work. But these kind of things, they take people away from things that do work. What is this? This is cold and flu relief, safe care, natural medicine, fast-acting oral spray, fever, cough, headache, congestion, and a rebate offer. Breakthrough medicine, no side effects. What is the active ingredient in this? Oh! They list the ingredients in the order of how common they are, you see. Arsenicum album, which is arsenious acid. Deadly poison. Acts on the system almost instantly. But what is the, it's a 1 part, oh, it's 1 part 30 million, so it's not too bad. Okay, let's go back to these sleeping tablets for a minute. I called Bob Park. Remember Bob Park? He was here. I called Bob Park at the American Physical Society, and I told him about these pills. I said, Bob, how many pills would I have to swallow in order to make sure that I got 1 molecule of the active ingredient? Oh, wait, I didn't tell you. In these sleeping tablets, what is the active ingredient? Caffeine. That's science, folks. That's science. Well, I asked Bob, I said, how many tablets would I have to eat in order to make sure I got 1 molecule of caffeine of that dilution? He figured it out for me. Ready? 16 swimming pools full of pills. 16 swimming pools. Now I want you to picture it just for a minute. Me in a bathing suit, that's bad enough. A lot of drinking water. Really, a lot. I go into the first swimming pool, gobble, 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 gobble. You feel sleepy, Mr. Randi? No, but I'm sure full of pills. Let me have some of that water. Climb out of the pool, or be mulched out of the derrick, I guess, to the next pool, and so on for the rest of the 15 pools, swimming pools full of pills. What kind of nonsense is this? In order to get 1 molecule, but, you see, The homeopaths have got us beat on this. They say, of course, that's a silly analogy. I say, why? Because it's the vibrations of the caffeine that are still there. The vibrations. These people wouldn't know a vibration if they came up with Bentham. They don't know what a vibration is. They can't define it, and they wouldn't recognize it if they saw it. But they talk vibrations all the time. That's homeopathy. That's what it's all about, but wait, as you suspected, it gets better. You folks, I'm sure, have heard of the Ig Nobel Prize. The Ig Nobel Prize is awarded, where did I put that marker? Oh, here it is. The Ig Nobel Prize is awarded by Harvard every year for really stupid things in science. And I was asked a couple of years ago to attend to present a special award to a man named Jacques Benveniste with the Boiron Pharmaceutical Company. They make only homeopathic remedies in France. Because he had made a second, it was the only time that anyone had ever won it twice. It's called the Double Stupid Award. And he didn't show up for it, so I had to accept it on his behalf. This is what he had discovered, folks. Remember all the chugga-chugga, the shaking and everything? He's done away with that. You take a container of water here. There's a glass of water, okay? Water. Ordinary water. Not special water. Right out of the tap, friends. Over here we have a switch. Like this, simple little electrical switch. There we go. We take a wire, run it over here, and we run it around 10 times. Remember the magic number? And we leave it over here, and we have a bottle of homeopathic water over here, and we run this around there 10 times exactly, and we leave it over here, and there's a battery in here. We'll put the battery in here. Now, this is his discovery. That if you have 10 turns of wire here, 10 turns of wire there, this is homeopathic water, this is ordinary water, you depress this switch for how long? See? You got it. See how smart you are? Since I arrived here, you got a lot smarter, didn't you? For 10 seconds, exactly right. And this water is just as homeopathic as that. Now, I agree with one thing. This water is just as medicinal as that. But wait, it gets a lot better, friends. He also discovered you could do this over the telephone. By connecting the receiver of your telephone on one end and the transmitter on the other end to the 10 turns of wire, and closing this with for 10 seconds. And wow, it transfers over the telephone. It gets better. You can now do it for a small fee that you pay over the internet with PayPal. Over the internet. You connect the audio output of your computer to 10 turns of wire around a bottle of water, and in Paris, they press the button for 10 seconds, and this becomes homeopathic water. That doesn't sound sillier or more juvenile than what I'm telling you about. I'm not making this up. That's Benveniste's latest invention.
Did he do that?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't doubt that for a second. But the interesting thing is, how come Food and Drug Administration can't come down on these people? You know why? Because they were here before the FDA was here. The homeopaths were quacking all over America in wagon trains with selling snake oil and whatnot. They're immune to it because they established their claims and published the Pharmacopoeia Homeopathica. They published that before the FDA was in business, therefore they're grandfathered in, and they can't touch them. They can do any damn thing they want, sell anything, and make any claims for it, perfectly free. No one can touch it. Well, I think something should be done about this. I'm going to mention briefly, get this crap out of here. It's a technical term I use from time to time. I'm going to mention briefly Sylvia Brown, John Edward, and James Van Praagh. Now these are the three leading figures, or just Alvin Anderson, but he's nothing. These are the three main figures in the talking to the dead that is so popular right now. I was called by, I guess, the program Extra. They called me and they said, we're going to send you a 2-hour videotape of John Edward. We want you to go through it and pick some suitable material whereby you could show us what his gimmick is. Now, John Edward's gimmick, the gimmick of all of them, Sylvia and James Van Praagh, is what we call in the trade cold reading. It's like 20 questions. I'm getting a J, and a hand goes up. I'm getting a man's name. No, it's a woman. Then you're not the person who had the woman. There's the person who has the woman's name. And they go on like this. And they make guesses and they back up. They're wrong here, they're with that. It's a game of 20 questions. And he gets spiritual manifestations from it, apparently. He says he's talking to the dead. He's got vulnerable people who have written in months in advance for their tickets. These people need the answer to be yes. But their loved ones did survive someplace on another plane and can't speak to them. They needed to be yes. And that's why they're there. And he is a vulture feeding on them. And he feeds on them very richly. He makes millions, literally millions, not just an expression, literally millions of dollars a month doing this. And he's syndicated all over the world. Australia, New Zealand, England, all through Europe, all over the world is the crossing over program with John Edward. Sylvia Brown does the same kind of a thing, so does James Van Praagh, but no, with not the high profile that John Edward has. Well, I was called by extras, I said, and they said, we'll send you this videotape, and you'll choose a minute or so out of that and do an analysis. I said, no, I will take the videotape as you send it, and I will take the first 60 seconds of it, and I will do an analysis of that. Because I thought, it's not fair for me to go through it until I find something where he's weak. No, I'll take the very first 60 seconds I come to. So we transcribed it. We got 50 seconds off it, actually, because the rest of it was just palaver and whatnot. In that 50 seconds, I hope you're ready for this, folks. In that 50 seconds, he made 26 guesses. That's more than one guess every 2 seconds. You have to talk really fast. Who was he doing it for? A middle-aged man in the audience sitting with his wife who had already announced he wanted to contact the spirit of his deceased father. Okay? We know that from the beginning. So he does a reading for him. He gives them 26 guesses. Careful analysis of the guesses from the answers given by the people sitting in the audience. 23 of them were wrong. He got 3 right out of 26 guesses. And the 3 that he got right were, this man is dead. Yeah, we knew that. There's a younger man connected with him. Yeah, the guy sitting in the audience. And he's older than you. Your father has to be older. These are sort of obvious facts. I don't think it took a genius to figure this one out. The 3 things he got right were things we already knew. He was wrong on the 23 other ones. And yet at the end of that 50 seconds, the man in the audience was visibly sobbing, tears flowing down his cheek, turned to his wife and says, he's made contact. This is the need these people have for people like Edward to be correct. It's not just they want him to be correct, they need him to be correct, and they'll accept, no matter how bad the performance is, they will accept it as factual, because they want so much and they need so much for it to be correct. That man was totally convinced. One woman who was read in the audience with a remarkable reading. You've got to also know that the audience is held for 2 to 2.5 hours in a holding area where they're served tea and sandwiches and biscuits and whatnot. Well, young people go around and, oh, I'm here to have a reading done. Are you here to have a reading done? Get into conversation with them. That information often shows up in the reading later on. What a coincidence. We know a lot about this. The process is called cold reading. That's called a hot reading when they get to use the information that they have gotten by listening in and by questioning the people actually in advance. And people are always asked on a piece of paper to list their family names and whatnot, all the names of all their relatives on the piece of paper so they can check them out. As if I didn't know the name of my grandfather and a few things like that. Okay, this woman appeared in an interview at the end of the program but sitting against an illuminated curtain, and the interviewer said, "What really impressed you the most about John Edwards' reading?" She said, "I'll tell you, one thing really sold me on it. I'm absolutely convinced of it, because he said that my mother was a very bouncy, cheerful, exuberant person, speaking loudly and laughing. And you know, in life, my mother was very timid and quiet and retiring. She would never laugh out loud. I'm so glad that in heaven she has now changed her personality." This is proof for this woman that John Edward is reading something from the dead. Incredible, but true. Well, John Edward sent us the answer through his agent. John Edward does not respond to criticism. Yeah, well, he could have won the $1 million. I'm going to close my talk now, after which we'll have questions and answers. But I will close it the way I usually do and the way I used to do my magic shows as well. No, Virginia, there's no Santa Claus. I hate to tell you that. I sort of wish there were. I'll tell you, at the end of December, I'm pretty popular. Not on the 26th, when they didn't get the pony, they kicked me in the ankle. But for a while there, I'm very popular. I sort of wish there were a Santa Claus. But I'm afraid there isn't. No. But you see, we can test these things. We can look into them. We don't have to just accept or reject something or say, I just don't believe that. We can find out why we believe it or don't believe it. And I'm going to propose to you a bit of a test, all right? Suppose we examine, well, let's examine the Santa Claus thing. I think it's a myth myself. I don't know your opinions, but we can look into it. I propose we do a scientific test like, let's just test one aspect of it. Reindeer, can they fly? That's a good test. Okay. So we have to do this in Paris. And I like food for one thing. We'll let's say take 50 reindeer, small budget. 50 reindeer, put them up on top of the Eiffel Tower. Don't laugh, this is science. And we'll number them on the sides and have a fellow with a video camera standing there all very ready and such. And pad of paper. Everybody ready? Okay, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Good, 10 o'clock in the night. And then the temperature is so-and-so Celsius. Very good. See, they use Celsius. We haven't found out about that yet. They use things called meters too, but that might be too heavy for you. Okay, that'll be temperature. Okay, fine. All right. 10 o'clock. Okay. Number one. Where's number one? Number one. Here we go. Ready? Okay. Got the camera going? Good. Fly. Put down that number one there. No. Or this is no. Yeah. Number two. Number two, where are you? Come on, you're hiding. Where are you? Here you are. Get out here. Get out here. Come on, now, don't be afraid. This is science. He just wasn't trying, okay? I know this. Okay, ready? Push. Just use ditto marks. Now, I don't know what we're going to get at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Based upon my admittedly meager knowledge of the laws of aerodynamics, I think we're going to get a pile of very unhappy and broken reindeer at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, and probably a couple of gendarmes looking out there. I don't know, Pierre, but here comes another one. But seriously, folks, have we proven that reindeer cannot fly? Oh, no. Not the way science works. We have only proven that these 50 reindeer, under these climatic conditions, air temperature, pressure, that sort of thing, on this particular occasion, either could not fly or chose not to. Now, if the latter, then we certainly know something about the IQ of reindeer, don't we? Not very smart. But scientific experiments like this can be done. We can investigate the mythologies, the myths, the ideas, the notions that people have had down through the years. We can examine them, and what are we going to have at the end? I think, based upon almost a lifetime now, not yet, I'm not ready, almost a lifetime of investigating these things since I started at the age of 15, I think that we're going to find there is nothing to it, that we've been swindled for generations and generations back into history, and I'm sure for generations yet to come. I think we're going to find there's nothing to it. We've offered our $1 million, we put it up front, put it on the table, there it is. If you can do it, take it. Hello? Crickets. Nothing but the sound of crickets on the night air. Now, these scientific tests, they may not appeal to the average person because they sometimes get rather complicated. But I think most of you can see that these things can be tested. There's no question about it. They say, oh no, my powers can't be tested. Yes, they can. Anything can be tested if you just give us a chance to get into it and if you'll sit still long enough for the tests to be made. I have a hard time with some of the things that I have to discuss for audiences, and I remember my dear friend Carl Sagan, who I miss greatly, sincerely, greatly. I had an experience the other day in my office that was really very sobering and very scary. I was sitting watching the screen, the internet was unloading some material, and Gil came up in astronomy, very funny. And I turned to Andrew, who was sitting in my office at the time, and I read it, Gil, and he laughed. And I stopped with my hand like this, and Andrew said, what's the matter? And I looked at my hand and I said, Andrew, I was going to call Carl. What a creepy thing. It's almost as if he were still here. Well, in Demon Haunted World, if you haven't read that book, read that book, The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. Don't neglect to read it. It's a wonderful book. Get it from your library, get it from your bookstore. In there, Carl Sagan revealed some stuff that I hadn't known before. And he revealed to the public, the reading public out there, and I just was in China, and they presented me with the first printed copy off the press of that same book in Chinese. There's 2 billion people more that can know about it now, and I celebrated that fact. That's wonderful. It's translated into many different languages around the world. Read it. Oh yeah, I've got some books out too, but this is what you want to read. The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. I miss that guy a lot. He shouldn't have been taken away at that early age, but he's gone. Demon Haunted World is still with us. Read it. It's Carl Sagan. What he has to say is extremely important. Carl once said something. He said, we're made of star stuff. What a wonderful poetic way to look at it. Because we are made of star stuff. You, me, this whole place, this floor. Made of star stuff. What does he mean by that? That at one point, the matter of which we are constituted was at the heart of a very hot galaxy, in the middle of a great star, perhaps, we don't know. Way, way back, as he would say, billions and billions of years ago. And it was very hot. It was mostly light elements like helium and hydrogen and whatnot, yeah. And then it began to cool. And carbon, nitrogen, other elements came out of it. Sulfur, good stuff like that. And eventually came the heavier elements of which we are composed. So we are made of star stuff. Now we've been to the moon. Oh, not anyway in this room, I know, but we have been to the moon. And just recently I was given a VIP tour at Houston Space Flight Center. They dressed me in the duck suit. Funniest looking thing. They vacuumed my beard. What a big history. Vacuumed my beard. All kinds of things can hide in there, you know. I'm told, anyway. And they put a funny hat on me and big bunny shoes and whatnot. And they vacuumed me thoroughly from head to foot. And then they took me into the lunar rock lab. And they opened up a case. It came open. And they said, go ahead. And I reached in, picked up pieces of the moon. Pieces of the moon in my hand. With gloves on, mind you, but this hand held pieces of the moon. Because we're so damn smart and intelligent and adventuresome, and we're such a great species, that we have the intelligence the courage to go out 250,000 miles in space, land on that big rock up there, walk around in funny suits, pick up these things, put them in the jeans, get in a thing looked like a foam boot on legs, and they scored up in the air, came back, and these guys are among us today, and we celebrate them, don't we? Yes, we certainly do, and we celebrate our own existence because we went out and picked up pieces of the moon. That's exciting. It shows what a wonderful species we are. Oh yeah, the moon, that's the first thing. Mars? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Oh, maybe not for another generation. Maybe two, who knows? It depends. On a lot of things. Political, economic, and whatnot, sure. But we'll go to Mars. The other planets, too heavy on Saturn and Uranus and Neptune and whatnot. We'll go really nasty out there, I'll bet. That's very far out. And Venus, melting lead, temperatures melting lead. Whoa, whoa, hot, pretty hot. Mercury, even less hopeful. But Mars, yeah. And beyond that, remember what Carl said? We're made of star stuff. The stars. They're out there. And I think one of these days, maybe 1,000 years from now, we will go to the stars. Now, when I was a little kid, 10 years of age, I used to go out there and observe the moons of Jupiter and whatnot through an old brass spyglass that my grandfather left me. And I never thought we'd visit the moon in my lifetime, but we did, and we're going well beyond that. It's very exciting. And gee, as a little kid, I just wondered about those things. But now look where we are. We're way ahead, and we're on the edge of stepping out into outer space. I find that very exciting. Do we need the guy with the horoscope on the wall, and the ring in his ear, and the turban on his head? The guy says, I'm speaking with the dead. Somebody's name begins with J. What a miracle! Somebody in the audience knows somebody with a name starting with J. How could he know that? Isn't that wonderful? We don't need these fakers because we're a wonderful, exciting, strong species, and we've got a great future ahead of us if we don't listen to these fakers. You know what they want us to do? They want us to go back into the caves that our ancestors came from. I've been in caves in South America and in Europe. Nasty, damn, dirty, back poo every place. It's not very nice. And I don't think you'd like to go back into the caves. I don't want to go. I want to go onto the stars. When I was at the age of 10, I decided that that's what I would do. If only in my mind, but perhaps if I possibly could, in my body. Well, doesn't look like that's going to happen, but I'm getting closer to it. You're getting closer to it every day. Ladies and gentlemen, I made the decision. I'm going to the stars. Will you join me? Thank you.
If you have a question for Mr. Randi, please come to either of the microphones.
We can only have a few questions because I spoke well over time as I usually do. Before we do the questions, I want to announce one thing I was asked to announce previously. Richard Feynman was a good friend of mine, lovely man, Nobel laureate, physicist, brilliant guy. Oh, what a genius. If you haven't read his books, look him up. F-E-Y-N-A-M. F-E-Y-N-A-M. And they are planning, the committee here is planning to petition the post office to issue a commemorative stamp for Richard Feynman. Dick Feynman deserves a stamp. He deserves to be remembered. If you wish to help this, on the table outside you'll find application forms that you can take to your company, to your class, to your group, whatever, and get signatures on it. This may do the job. So let's do something for Dick Feynman. He did a lot for us. First question. I don't know where the microphones are. They're down here, but there's nobody out there. Come on, if you got a question, get up to the microphone here. Yep, there we go. There's the first one, a brave soul. And what is your question, sir?
Well, we've got this creationist down in Glenrose. You probably know his name, Dr. Carl Bob, and he's been going on recently about this thing called energized water that he's been promoting that supposedly renders snake venom harmless, and he's selling it in these mugs for like $50 a pop. Have you been running into a lot of claims in terms of like polarized or energized or clustered or declustered water?
Yep, magnetized water. I consulted some physicists at Bob Park, as a matter of fact, and some of his colleagues. I said, does water cluster? And he said, oh yeah, in two forms. Ice. And the other ones are clusters of H2O molecules. The clusters last an average of 3 picoseconds. That's really short, folks. And if he's got a bottle of water that has lasted that long, it's a miracle. Now, that claim we can test. I'll get the snake, we'll supply the water, and we'll test him for the $1 million, okay? But these people won't come anywhere near us because they know they can't pass the test. Next question. Over here? Yeah. Can you move the microphone? Can you grab it and move it down? Yeah. Or grow taller, one or the other. Okay?
About the swimming pools, how many of the swimming pools of pills would it take just to get a gram of fat, of caffeine?
A gram of fat, no? It's probably not that. A gram of the caffeine or whatever? Oh, it would take enough to cover North America, I think. But it would be more pills than you'd want to see. It might be good to play in. Maybe you get a sand pail or a pill pail or something and build castles, pill castles. There's a good project right there. It would take an awful lot, because if it takes enough to get one molecule, you know how many molecules will fit inside a sand pail? Don't ask. It's a very big number with a lot of zeros after it.
Take 9.6 times 10 to the 24th.
Oh boy. I knew we had that somebody there. Thank you. That's an awful lot of molecules. Yes, sir.
What about organized religions? What's your position? Organized religions.
I think they're walking on religion.
Organized
religion?
Yeah. Same deal?
Religion doesn't make any claims, you see.
Oh, they don't?
No, they state facts. They say, this is so, that's it. Okay. They don't say, here's some evidence that will prove this. I can only examine things that offer evidence. There's blind faith, and there's faith based on evidence. Religion is blind faith. This is what I believe to be true. This is I read in the book. This is what my parents taught me. This is what my society, my community believes, and I believe it too. Fine. I don't have any argument with that. I don't believe it's true, but that's my personal belief, because I don't see any evidence to support it. That's my philosophy on the thing. And if somebody's got something, they've got evidence, shroud of Turin, great example. Big carbon, potassium, dating on it, that sort of thing, and they found out it was made in the 13th century. We already knew that, but that's now still just a venerated object. It's not a holy relic anymore, but you can still get money for it if you want. They made that rule. So things that you can get your teeth into, that you can put into the laboratory, that you can test or examine, yes, we look for that. And if somebody claims they can raise dead people or make snake venom ineffective with water or something, hey, we can test that. But religion itself, as a philosophy, as a discipline, that sort of thing, no, because it doesn't offer evidence that can be examined. Next question. Are you the next one?
Yes. A few times throughout my life, I've heard third-person accounts of stories of superhuman strength. In other words, you'll hear about a 100-pound woman lifting a car off with her husband, usually attributed to the adrenaline response.
I'm usually really wise throwing cars onto their husband. I don't know, because we don't have any firm evidence on that. We hear these anecdotal stories all the time. I've tried for years to track them down. And it's always attributed to somebody in Latvia. The people in Latvia think that someone in Yugoslavia did it, and the story moves around. But we never get the actual facts, the figures, the names, and the place where it took place. That's my problem. I don't doubt that somebody under extreme stress can, and might very well, lift the bumper of a car off somebody. I think it might be done. It might be done at great damage to the human body, but things happen like that, and we have known of something similar to that have happened in the past. If I had good enough evidence for it that we could really follow up on, yes, I would look into it. But I've tried for years to find the evidence. I need the name, I need the observers, I need the evidence, good evidence. Remember what Carl Sagan also said, unusual claims require unusually good proof. Ordinary claims, if I say, for example, I live in Plantation, Florida. If I say that I have a goat in my backyard, yeah, we can keep livestock like that. We might have a goat, in fact. Anyone wants to give me one. They've got, funny eyes. And but I wouldn't mind to have a goat. Keep the lawn short anyway. And if somebody said that, that's an ordinary claim. That's not an unusual claim, because I could have a goat. But I could send a goat expert around. Anybody who knows that they have rectangular irises and what they smell like, sample of the hair, maybe a little bit of the horn, yeah, then we'd have evidence. We'd be able to say, yep, that's a goat. But if someone says I've got a unicorn in the backyard, that takes a lot more expertise. And if you know anything about how unicorns can be tamed, and I won't get into the details, well, that might be difficult to arrange too. A dirty laugh from down here, so maybe he knows. However, making a claim that there's a unicorn in my backyard is a totally different thing from the claim there's a goat in my backyard. Unusual claims require unusually good proof. So, next is where else?
One more question from each microphone. Okay. One here and one there.
Okay, fine.
When you have taken some of the products, like you showed us tonight, and you have proved that they don't work, have you ever had someone who bought the product ask you to testify for them? Has anybody ever seen? I mean, it's fraud.
Well, no, we don't prove that it doesn't work, see. All we can prove is that they can't prove that it does work.
Well, why isn't that also fraud?
Well, yeah, it would be a fraud, yeah, if they won't do it. But homeopathic medicines are out of the reach of the FDA.
Yeah, but if an individual bought it thinking it would cure something like that, some of the faith healers, and then they die, do they ever?
It says right on the label, it's not meant to cure diseases. They get around it by that. They've got lawyers going. Remember lawyers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I found out something about lawyers, by the way. This is just very briefly, but you know how they used to use white rats for experiments? Because, you know, they're mammalian and that sort of thing, so they but they were using white rats forever. Then they started to use lawyers for three good reasons. First of all, there are many more lawyers. They're very easy to handle. If something happens to them in the experiment, they die, you don't get disturbed, you see. With the white rats, you might. The other thing is, they found out that there are some things that white rats just wouldn't do, but lawyers would. But then they discontinued. They're back using white rats again. The reason is very simple. The lawyers were found not to be close enough to human beings. One more question. We let this gentleman ask the last question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Randi. I just wanted to express our gratitude for allowing us to come and hear you speak today with great respect for your work. And I was hoping to see if you could give us an estimate as to the fakers that you've experienced in your line of work. How many of them are deliberately deceptive, and roughly what percentage are genuinely deluded into thinking that their claims are the truth?
Okay. How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky? That's a good question, sir, and I thank you for it. The vast majority of those who come to be tested really think they got the powers. They're not the fakers. Because the fakers know I'm going to catch them right away. I've only had 2 dowsers. I've investigated literally a couple thousand dowsers all over the world.